He's never fought us. Not us united.
Die. Oh! I can so see that. That's it. Welcome on to Two Capes, the premier show for Comics League. I'm Jared, and I'm here with longtime friend, but making his epic return to the show, Max Priestley. What's up, dude?
What's going on, brother? Yeah, no, it's been a while, but always good to be back here, and thank you for having me on, and always great to talk about comics.
Anytime. So we're talking. So one of the things that's been lacking in modern comics is a true example of like masculinity in comics, or like a lot of masculine heroes can be demonized. So Max and I wanted to come together and have a conversation about why you need masculine heroes and masculine comic book characters. Now, before we get started, I just want to say, let's quickly define what masculinity is, because I think that'd be a good way to like begin our conversation. So Max, how would you define masculinity?
Yeah, that's a great question, brother. So I think for me, masculinity comes from like the three P's, which is that purpose, or protection, providing, purpose. You know, it's that whole it's this kind of masculine urge to want to protect those who can't protect themselves, or help those who can't help themselves. Men want to provide. Men want to have a purpose to do those things, and I think there's a lot of courage in that, a lot of nobility and honor. So masculinity comes from that primal urge to have this purpose to protect and provide for others, and I think that is lacking, like you said, because that same purpose for a lot of male characters now in comics seem to not have that urge and that courage, that ability to act, and to have actions that are noble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's like, if case in point, when I did the video on John Kent and them saying that he's a better Superman because he doesn't fight, and I'm like, well, here's the thing: masculinity. Okay, so to be clear, the way I see masculinity, it doesn't mean that you're going to go out seeking for a fight, but it means that if it comes down to it, you're willing to throw hands, and really, you can't be a superhero ultimately and not be willing to enter into a fight. Let's face it, because that's about 90% of the job, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're not going out there looking for someone to just beat up. I think that there are superheroes that go on patrol, but it is more so of like an aspect of going on patrol to see who needs help.
Mm-hmm.
And if it comes down to it, they have to be ready for that fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that walk tall and carry a big stick. Hopefully you don't have to utilize that, but if you do, you better know how to use your hands as weapons, or
Mm-hmm.
your power as a superhero. And Superman is a great example of that. He constantly, he constantly, if he's fighting humans, he can't use his full 100% power that he would use against like Darkseid or something. He has to restrain himself, and that is true strength, when you have to restrain yourself from hurting other people who may not be able to take a full punch from Superman or something.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, I think that you still need to be able to fight for something that you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And if that does mean a physical fight, then yeah, absolutely. That masculine urge to protect, like I said.
Yeah, and going into Superman, the reason why I think he's like the primo masculine superhero is because, well, he first off, he sees the value in pretty much everyone. That's why he doesn't go full tilt whenever he encounters like Lex Luthor. It's despite the fact that he wants to, but that's another one.
Yeah.
A significant point of masculinity is restraint, because yes, there's a time and a place for beating the crap out of a supervillain like Darkseid, but you can't again exactly you can't do that against like Lex Luthor, or you'll turn him into a thin pink mist.
Absolutely, yeah.
It doesn't work that well. Another character that I think gets overlooked and misunderstood, and I know this because I interviewed Mike Barron, is the Punisher.
Yeah,
because
sure.
Yeah, when you see the Punisher, the way that Marvel likes to portray him now is like a crazy dude with guns. So I'm like, but you're looking at like you said, his whole purpose, yeah, it's to avenge his family, but it's also to make sure this doesn't happen to other people. He's just going to a little bit more of an extreme, like he's using more extreme tactics to achieve that goal.
Yeah, Punisher's interesting because he was always like in the 90s. I would say like Marvel's Holy Trinity was like Wolverine, Punisher, and Ghost Rider. It was like the era of
The
masculinity.
anti-heroes, maybe.
Yeah, the anti-heroes. And so Punisher was this kind of anti-hero figure, but now they've made him just a straight up villain,
Mhm.
because they think that that type of anti-hero or masculinity is toxic now. Granted, yes, he goes to extreme lengths,
Mhm.
but he does so with child murderers and rapists and
People who
gang
deserve
members
it.
and
He
people who really
he's not just
deserve to
white.
be.
He's not just going up to a random mugger and going "Da-da-da-da-da-da-da."
Yeah. I mean, he may even do that too, but for the most part, like from what I remember from the Garth Ennis like Punisher Max run, like he was infiltrating really, really like human traffickers and stuff like
Mhm.
like really bad people,
Yeah.
objectively bad
Mhm.
people. But now Marvel seems to, in their newest series with Jason Aaron, they've seemed to just made him this like like this sociopathic serial killer from birth.
Which is
Which
stupid.
Yeah, which to me doesn't feel like Frank Castle because Frank was in the Marine Corps. He served as a captain in the Marine Corps. He had a family, he had a life. How could he be able to do that as this sociopathic serial killer, and still be an effective man to contribute to society? And I think it also like makes him a great character when you see the juxtaposition between like Frank Castle the husband and then Frank Castle the Punisher. It's like
Mhm.
that once his family
Plus,
gets killed, you see that twist.
the other problem with the Aaron run is that it perpetuates the Hollywood myth that most vets are like PTSD time bombs. So I'm like, that you're not helping at all with
No,
the veteran
no.
unemployment and all that stuff. You're not helping.
And that's a great point, man. And that was something that, because it's scary to think that and I don't know if your fans know, but so I served in the Marine Corps for 5 years, and I was an officer and served with an infantry battalion and artillery battalion. And so we were in combat zones like Iraq and Baghdad. And so coming back, yeah, to think that people would consider me like a threat,
Yeah.
based off of like, maybe fireworks go off and they think that I'm gonna start shooting schools and stuff. It's like, gosh dang, it definitely perpetuates that stereotype that we're just ticking time bombs ready to go off, which isn't true. And it's scary to think that people in Hollywood and comic book writers think that.
Well, here's the thing. Marvel has a positive example of a veteran, Captain America. Steve Rogers served in the army, and he's a regular dude, and that's what most of
Mhm.
these guys that have gone to war are like you, just
Yeah, yeah.
regular dudes.
And I love like some of the best guys that I worked with in the Marine
Mhm.
Corps were just like you said, regular ass dudes. Like
Mhm.
they just they had families, they had, they after they got out of the Marine Corps, they just went and, are working 9 to 5 jobs. Like these are the men who, create families, who give
Yeah.
back to society, who have served their country. And a lot of them are just normal guys. So yeah, I love that aspect of Captain America, that humanity that he brings to
Yeah.
the shield. Because though he is infused with the superhero super serum, it's same thing with Superman. It's his
Yeah.
humanity that makes him a hero.
Plus, going on to Captain America, what a lot of modern Captain America writers don't get, like Ta-Nehisi Coates and all the like, are
Mm,
that Captain America is supposed to represent what America can be, not what it is. He's supposed to represent the ideals that the country's supposed to stand for in like the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. He's not supposed to be like a reflection of racism.
yeah,
He's not. He's objectively not.
yeah, and I love that you said that, man, because it really does. Like I was reading Avengers Annual number 10 the other day, and there's this really impactful moment. It's written by Chris Claremont
Of
and
course, there you
illustrated
go.
by, yeah, right. and illustrated by Michael Golden. It's a beautiful issue. It's the first appearance of Rogue and Madeline Pryor. But so I'm reading this, and at the very end of the comic, I believe it's Carol Danvers, and she's talking about like she's telling the Avengers, she's like, the reason why we exist as Avengers is to show humanity what they could be. The reason why we have this. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, the reason why they have this this large responsibility is because they exist as something bigger than themselves, which is this ideal of being a better person to humanity, but to society, to your environment, to your community. And I think at least when Cap is written really well, that is what he exemplifies, is this ideal of what America could be.
Yeah, plus, well, speaking of characters that have been torn apart, is Carol Danvers, because if you read like her, if you read the Brian Reed run, she is actually really good in that one. When back when she was Ms. Marvel, once they made her Captain Marvel, the writers took her in like the completely like man-hating direction, which I'm like, oh my gosh, because she's a great character. It's not like she's a horrible character.
Yeah, I did enjoy her as Miss Marvel. I also love that costume too, like the black with the white or the yellow lightning bolt and the red sash and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a beautiful character design, and she's amazing. Yeah, I remember in that Brian Reed run, I think Aaron Lopresti does some illustration or artwork for it. So that's a really fun one as well.
It's weird going through my comic collection when I like grab a book off the shelf and I'm like, oh, it's a Comicsgate guy. Yeah. But
yeah, they're everywhere.
And another character that I think actually exemplifies masculinity is actually, believe it or not, Venom. Because his whole thing is like, particularly in like the Donny Cates running, you and I have geeked out about King in Black all the time, but it's like when because his whole thing is he's trying to redeem for his time as a supervillain, and that's whole about how don't let your past define who you are. You can change your path in life no matter at any point in your life.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great example of a man who has taken responsibility for his actions and continues to do so, and like you said, doesn't let his past define him. And now that he has this son, you know, because remind me, do you remember what the son's name was in the series? In that whole Dylan, that's right. I almost said Donnie, and I was like, no, because Donnie's the one who wrote it. Yeah. But yeah, now that he has Dylan, he has this deep purpose and responsibility now that he's like I have to take care of my child, you know, and so he's this single father looking after Dylan as he is Venom, as he's like, you know, going through this crisis of you know, when the King in Black comes down and he starts, you know, recognizing that these symbiotes, there's this whole planet of symbiotes and everything. It's a really, really fun storyline. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But his redemption gets to the point where Captain America gives him an open invitation to join the Avengers. To Venom. Venom. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah. It's so, you know, we were mentioning Punisher earlier. It's like they took Punisher and they were like, okay, let's just make him a villain, but then let's make Venom a hero. You know, so they went like these two anti-heroes, and they just, you know, totally pushed him to opposite ends of the spectrum. Where yeah, like Venom is now like a total, he's fighting with like Thor and Silver Surfer and Wolverine, and like
he's combining the hammer and the board into a giant axe. That was so cool.
I will say I was a total fanboy when I saw that, and I was very happy. It was like, you know, a little kid just combining action figures together and making like
one of the best runs in comics. I think it was one of the best modern Marvel comics runs. I have to put that addendum on there because there's so many that I'm like, ugh. But I'm like, yeah, that was fantastic.
Well, the current Marvel era of like runs that they're doing includes a lot of events, and none of these events really feel like they have any type of weight to them. But King in Black, to me, really had stakes, and it really felt like there was like you had the big bad, and you had the heroes against the big baddie, you know, like the King in Black himself, Null. And so Null actually presented this epic event, and
Mhm.
that's why I felt like, hey, this is the event that Marvel needs. But now it's just like, hey, let's do the gala, let's dress up and
Let's have a
just
prom, essentially.
yeah.
Don't get
So
me started on what they've done to the X-Men. They took the foundation that Hickman left them and
mhm.
destroy. By the way, that's a run. I want Hickman to do a Justice League run. I think you do fantastically with He's.
Oh,
I think he's better as a DC writer because he writes these people as gods, and that's DC right there.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, I could see that.
Mhm,
I think that'd be fun.
mhm.
So yeah, I mean, but yeah, to your point, I do agree that King of Black is probably one of the better Marvel events that they've done in recent years, at least like within the modern era of like 2010 to 2023 ish, maybe 2015 to
Let's say
2023.
so. Yeah. Yeah. Another character that I think works really well is Iron Man because you
Mm.
again, it's a whole thing with the redemption, particularly the MCU. Because I was just watching Iron Man 1 recently, and by the way, that movie still holds up, but
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
particularly compared to what we're getting now. But
Yeah.
what's interesting about it is that you see Tony Stark. He's this playboy. He's this party boy. He doesn't take anything seriously. Then he has his experience. It's legit Joseph Campbell. He has his experience, and then he decides, okay, you know what? I need to turn my life around, and it's
Mhm.
that recognition that a change is needed.
Yeah. I think men, in terms of like their masculinity, I was listening to this podcast the other day where this individual who's therapist, he was saying that men tend to really look for solutions. They tend to look for growth. They tend to look for change. They tend to look for action.
Mhm.
Men are individuals of action, and so when they see a change that needs to be made, instead of kind of sitting there and thinking about it and wondering, pondering and being a little bit more emotional about it, they go, how can I solve it? What can I do? Let's take action.
It's like
Let's go
Batman.
do it. Batman is very, Batman, though he will think about something, he'll
Mhm,
take the time to think about it. He's very much thinking of solutions,
mhm,
he's always constantly thinking of ways to get himself out of a situation, or
mhm.
finding ways to solve crime. So yeah, I think with Iron Man, like you said, with an individual who, like in the specifically in the MCU, he saw the his negligence, he saw the kind of hurtfulness that he was causing with his previous self, and so he's like, I'm now going to take action to really make really make something impactful here.
Mhm.
And he creates the Iron Man suit and everything. So I think it speaks to a lot of male heroes and masculine heroes when they take action, and they go out and they solve and provide solutions for people who don't have them.
Mhm. So now I've given a few masculine heroes. I want to hear from you. So what? So Max, what superheroes do you think exemplify masculinity?
Ooh, honestly, I think Wolverine. Like,
Oh,
we can't do a stream without mentioning Wolverine for
particularly we're talking about
masculine.
masculine. Yeah, exactly. I was about to say.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah.
absolutely. Though he's only 5'3", he packs the punch of like 7 men. He's like the most masculine thing I
Mhm,
can think of. He just exudes that. He's this kind of hairy, stocky, uh, gruff, rough and tumble type of personality. And yet he has moments where he can be, because he's very serious, and he's always kind of looking for um trying to find himself and taking actions to, you know am I a weapon, am I a monster, am I an animal, am I a man? And he's constantly trying to wrestle with this as he goes throughout life, and he's always taking action, to help others, though, even though he's still trying to find himself and understand himself. But he will never go, or he will always go out of his way to go help someone else. Like,
mhm,
I just finished the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine series from like 1985,
mhm.
again written by Claremont,
Of course,
and though yeah,
it's an X-Men book,
though
of course.
yeah, he's got to be on it. Though the art isn't fantastic, the story is really great, and
Mhm,
one of the things that I noticed was, like, Wolverine is at the Xavier school, and Kitty Pryde calls in to help, and she gets scared, and she's like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't ask the X-Men for help. I feel embarrassed," and she hangs up. And Wolverine, though he could have just stayed at the Xavier school, he takes it upon himself and he goes, "No, Kitty needs my help." And he flies all the way out to Japan, knowing that that's his, like, he's so used to Madripoor and he has friends in Japan, that he flies out there just to help Kitty, because he's like, "This is my friend, this is my teammate, I'm gonna go help her." And so I think that that exterior, that hard exterior that he has, is also matched with a good sense of, I'm going to help others as much as I can.
If there's one thing Wolverine has, is loyalty, and yeah, 100%, because it's like, no, you're a member of my team and you need help, I'm coming, let's do this.
Dude, that loyalty definitely shines through whenever he's part of the X-Men. And he doesn't necessarily have to agree. Like, he always fights with Cyclops or whatnot, and he will still be loyal to that team. And he tends to, even if he like goes off and is a lone wolf for a while, he always tends to come back and want to be, wants to be loyal to those teammates. I also think, in terms of just physicality, like in artwork, the Mark Silvestri Wolverine run is just like, it's like peak what I would imagine Wolverine to look like. So if you guys are watching this video and you're looking for like what the best Wolverine probably is illustrated as, to me, I think it's Silvestri's run, or
Jim Lee maybe, or something like that. Yeah,
Jim's. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with it. And but also with like Wolverine the movies, where like he takes it upon himself and Logan to bring Laura to like this Eden, to like this thing, and he gives his life to protect her. And that's ultimately one of the ultimate points of masculinity, is the willingness to give one's life for a higher purpose.
Yeah, that sacrifice. Like he truly is sacrificing. Yeah,
and another. I mean, yeah, 100%. And luckily for us, that's like every male superhero has died at some point and come back to life, because it's comics. So everyone has that quality, even the male characters that we don't necessarily like.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, because was it like, even in I think it was the 80s, or maybe no, I think it was the 90s, where they like technically killed Hal Jordan for a little bit. And they had Kyle Rayner in there for a while, and sales went down, and they had Hal as Spectre, and so like it
was Hal as Spectre.
Or was he Parallax?
He was Spectre, and then what they explained is that in the storyline where he turned evil and died, that was him as Parallax.
That's what it was. Thank you. So but yeah, like, fans were livid. They were like, "I want Hal Jordan back," because they missed their Hal, and then they finally brought him back after a while. But there have been plenty of characters that have died and come back, and characters that we don't necessarily want that have been here, and then they get rid of them. Or another one is like, who was it? Robin. Like,
oh yeah,
early on, they comic creators were like, "Hey, send in your vote if you want to kill Robin. Let us know."
A lot of people game the system on that one,
and a lot of people, I'd say a vast majority of people, were like, "Kill him, get rid of him."
And then he came back as Red Hood. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. I wonder if they did that now, like what that would look like. Like, hey,
a Twitter poll, probably.
What's up?
A Twitter poll, probably.
That's actually a good point. It definitely wouldn't be mail-in, but a Twitter poll would, because they've also done that for they said like, "Hey, what X character do you want in a comic, or what DC storyline do you want?"
Yeah, the Red Robin, and they also had like the voting contest on what was going to be the original X-Men, the new X-Men team, which I think is a dumb idea. I was like, oh god.
That's what it was. Yeah, they were like, should we include Jubilee and this person and that? And people tended to vote through Twitter. But it would. I mean, it's an interesting concept, but yeah, I think they really had something great there when they had to send in, ballots, and you could vote if they wanted to kill him off or not.
I wonder.
Very well. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Yeah, I wonder if they knew that people wanted him dead or not,
I'm
which is
sure
why
they
they
did. I'm sure they
yeah.
did. So another one that I'm sure you're gonna agree with me is John Stewart, Green Lantern.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he hits home because, he was a prior Marine as well, and so all my fellow heroes that are in the
Mhm,
Marine Corps, he definitely has a different style of leadership,
mhm.
whereas Hal is the envisionment of like willpower and
Yeah, he
creativity.
became
Um,
willpower.
he created his own ring. I mean, that's badass.
That's how
Um,
much of a Green Lantern he is. He became willpower.
yeah, exactly. And so he kind of leads from the front, of course, because he's your like classic
Mhm,
all-American Hal Jordan, type leader. But he's also kind of sarcastic. He's got kind of a goofy, kind of a funny way of describing things, and he can be a little not snarky, but a little jokey at times. Whereas like John Stewart is very dry, clear cut. He is a through and through like Marine Corps leader. He speaks in terms of like military tactics and strategy. Like he's always, at least when I read his stuff,
mhm,
it always seems like that.
mhm.
So yeah, definitely a different way of leadership, but both really work well. And I like both as Green Lanterns.
Oh yeah, and they're both well. Green Lanterns in general are good examples of masculinity because it's all about willpower and like putting yourself in uncomfortable situations as a way to grow. But also,
Mhm.
speaking of like not letting your mistakes define you, because remember, John Stewart had that situation where a planet was blown up because of him, and he had
Mm.
to like deal with that guilt, but he didn't let it like interfere with like he's like I gotta just stay focused on the job. What happened in the past happened. I just gotta keep going, keep charging ahead.
Yeah, that's a great way of and I totally forgot about that at first.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean like imagine the hurt that he would feel. Imagine that kind of pain and that weight that he would feel. It's there's some really great runs out there. I
Hmm.
also like the Green Lantern Corps because like you said, with the willpower that it takes to create these constructs with their rings and stuff, must be immense. But there's so many different, levels on the spectrum of lantern rings. When it was first introduced with Jeff Johns, and I know you and I both love that run, but that spectrum, you have like the indigo, right? And that's more of like a feminine
Compassion, I think.
aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, compassion. And so you see that there are more masculine sides of the emotional spectrum and feminine sides of the
Yeah.
emotional spectrum. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think it
No.
actually strengthens that masculine and feminine
Hmm.
because there are moments where like the blue green lantern ring of hope can actually give more power
It
to
augments
to
the others.
will. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
augments the
So
good. It's just because hope and willpower are like so intertwined.
Yeah. So I love that aspect of the different emotional spectrums and having more masculine and feminine qualities with them because I think it portrays those different roles and seeing that both can be powerful, right? Like masculinity and femininity both can be powerful.
Plus, you also have with like the Red Lanterns, you have plenty of Red Lanterns that turn good because they say the ring does not define the bearer defines the ring.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's a good
red,
point.
you'd expect to be evil because it's pure rage.
Hmm. I will admit I do kind of have this affinity towards Atrocitus. Like I just
He's
think
got a
it's such
kitty.
he he does. So I resonate because I also
Mhm.
have a cat. No, I'm kidding. No, he's such a because his home world and his family gets destroyed, and so like instead of being sad or instead of like gaining hope from others, he just turns into this rageful monster of a being.
Mhm.
And it is it's a horrific story and it's a horrific tale, but you see it's not hate, it's rage, and like
Mhm.
rage is so primal. And so I think that is a very scary notion, but it like you said, you can have individuals who can cross. I think there was actually a storyline where like was it Guy Gardner or
Yeah,
someone
he
who like
became a Red Lantern. Supergirl
that's
became
right,
a
yeah.
Red Lantern.
That's right. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
so
yeah.
good. Oh, geez.
Yeah. Because I think at one point in our life, we've all kind of felt rage before where we were just like, oh, but sometimes it defines us, and sometimes we don't let that define us.
Mhm.
And so I think those who have inherently been just have stayed within the Red Lantern core have let the rage define them, as opposed to the Green Lanterns who may feel angry or anger or hate. They don't let it define them, they don't let it control them, which I think is another great masculine aspect,
Yeah.
of to be able to be angry at injustices, but being able to control that anger into a righteous cause,
In
if
other
that
words,
makes sense.
control. Don't let your emotions control you. You control your emotions.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Having
It's,
that,
it, mhm. It's
yeah.
called emotional maturity. But
Yeah. Yeah.
what what's another hero that you consider like the epitome of masculinity?
Ooh, let's see. I really like, I mean, I really like Thor, I
I
think
was
as
hoping you were
well.
going to say Thor.
Yeah. I think Thor is a great example of that. He's a very stoic,
Hmm.
masculine type of character, right? Like I think him and Wolverine have this kind of stoic nature to them. I love how Thor is always written as kind of this Shakespearean, thou doth haveth my hammer. It's very Shakespearean. But yeah, he tends to be this kind of like if I think now culturally he'd be seen as more of a toxic male, where
Yeah.
he's this kind of like he's a Viking, he's a Norse god, so he's going to be drinking and eating and slaying,
Mhm.
slaying these evil demons and gods, and afterwards he's going to have his bounty, his treasure, and his women, and like in there's a portion of the Jason Aaron run back in like 2012, I think it was,
Mhm.
where young Thor, they're like, you have young Thor, middle-aged
Yeah.
Thor, and then
I
like
love that.
King Thor, yeah. And young Thor is very much this like I said, this envisionment of
He's a
what,
party boy.
yeah, he's this guy who just like, I think you did a video on it
Hmm.
a few months back where that first issue is like he's got all these women around him.
Yeah.
He's drinking beer because he just slayed a
He's the
monster.
image of the Viking hero that you see, like in the movie Beowulf, or like any of
Yeah,
the movies that you would see Viking heroes.
absolutely. So yeah, that's like though I don't think that is inherently masculinity. It's
Mhm.
masculinity shouldn't be defined by how many
Mhm.
women you have or
Yeah, of
whatnot.
course.
It is kind of an example of what you see through men's like through their lifespan. Like
Mhm.
men are, when they tend to be a little bit younger, they focus on the materialistic things like women and beer and cars and all this stuff, fame. Like young Thor is very infatuated with like fame, and then middle-aged Thor is a bit more stoic. He's a bit more confident in himself. He doesn't look towards the materialistic things. He recognizes his role as this hero, as this god. And then King Thor has taken the responsibility of all of Asgard at this point. And it's that kind of you see that a lot in men's lives where they really find their purpose and their calling. But I do like that, envisionment
Plus
of
the
Thor. I
fact
think
with
it's cool.
Thor, it's that exemplifying of earning your power every day. No, you're not owed everything. It's like the SEALs have that saying, "Earn your trident every day." I'm sure you guys have a similar thing with the EGA, but it's like you have
Mhm.
to earn that privilege to wear that emblem, or in Thor's case, to have that power every single day. Because the one good thing the Aaron run contributed is that he now go, because he had that period of going unworthy. He now says, whenever I lift that hammer, I'm always a little bit afraid in the back of my mind that it won't budge one day.
That is, and it like it gives you chills, right?
Yeah.
To think that you wouldn't be worthy. Every morning you're waking up thinking, am I worthy to carry this hammer? And your actions have to match your
Yeah.
words. And so Thor has that idea, or that thought process of, am I worthy, and can I continue to be worthy, and what does that look like? And But yeah, no, for us in the Marine Corps, our motto is earned, never given.
Yeah, what
So
gives?
and yeah, that's exactly to your point exactly. Um, Thor has to earn his hammer every single day. So
Plus,
yeah, it's
he had to earn it growing up. It's like
mhm.
he wasn't born and then instantly the baby is holding Mjolnir. It
Yeah,
was, yeah, that would be a dope image. But it was
yeah,
more like he had to take on all these feats. He had to earn the right to be the god of thunder.
absolutely, yeah. Because he, you know, you could say that he has the power of thunder and that he's born a god,
Mhm.
but it's his it is that worthiness that truly makes him what we think of as Thor. You know,
Mhm.
like that name in itself is who he is. It encompasses everything about him, and which is why I never really understood when it's like the same thing when they call X-23 Wolverine or
Yeah.
when they call Jane Foster Thor. It's like no, those names are specifically for those people that gives them
And
agency.
the problem with it in Thor's case, Jason Aaron treated it like Thor is a mantle, not. But what it says there is that if he be worthy or she be worthy, whatever, he they shall possess the power of Thor. They don't become Thor. In that
Yeah.
case, Captain America has been Thor many times because Captain America, Storm, the Hulk has been Thor at that point, but by that definition. So I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you don't get it.
Hey, there was even a moment in there's a Thanos run by Donny Cates where Silver Surfer Black picks up the hammer. So it's like, do I envision Silver Surfer to have the power cosmic and have this
Now
big
that's an
long
image.
cape and a Thor's?
Oh,
Yeah, right.
Venom. Venom lifted the hammer to combine it with the surfboard. So
That-
it's Venom Thor now. That would be dope.
I
But
mean, that would look pretty incredible. But
has
yeah, I mean,
Wolverine ever lifted the hammer?
not that I can think of. I mean, yeah, no, I can't think of a moment where he has.
Mhm.
I think he's probably killed too many people. I don't know.
Well, Thor
Um,
has killed many, many, many. So it's like
this
he's
is
not
also
that better.
true.
But I guess it's like he grew out of it. So I guess I kind of explain that.
Yeah, I don't know. And Wolverine has lived so many lives. He's
Mhm.
lived through the Civil War. He's lived through World War I, World War II. Like he's a man who just continues throughout time. And so through these different centuries of his life, I mean, like who knows what he has done that may or may not allow him to be worthy of that hammer. But
That Wolverine origin comic they did a little while back was dope as
mm,
hell, dude. But
yeah.
one of the things I wish they did with the MCU Thor, besides not giving it to Taika Waititi, is explore that unworthy part a little bit more because you get
Mm,
fantastic character development. If they did that part where now he has in the back of his head, now there could be a time where I'm not worthy to wield this hammer.
mm. I think in if they were to do it, I'd say in probably phase they did it a little bit
In the
in
Thor
in the
one.
first yeah, in the first movie,
Mhm.
and it still is like probably one of the best MCU scenes to this date where Odin is stripping Thor of his title and he's saying you are unworthy of your
Mhm.
title and he casts him out from Asgard. And he's like you're a or what does he say? He's like you are a arrogant,
Yeah,
greedy
yeah.
young boy, and he's like, "You are an old man and a fool."
And equally that when he earns the power back and then the hammer just flies back into his hand and you see the lightning bolt come down. It's
Yeah,
the Thor movies are criminally underrated. Both Thor movies are fantastic because they get the
I
character.
absolutely. I haven't watched Dark World in a while, but I will say I would
It's better than the
easily
others.
take. Yeah,
It's
I
better
would
than Love and Thunder.
easily
Let me put
take
it that way. Oh gosh.
Dark. Yeah, I would take Dark World 100 times over Love and Thunder, and I would almost actually blame Ragnarok
Mhm.
as the kind of
Yeah,
catalyst
that's
that
why.
began the, you know, jokey joke Marvel that we know of as the
Yeah.
Marvel humor now. Um, and it's so unfortunate because Thor, from what I remember reading, even in the Walt Simonson run with Beta Ray
Mhm.
Bill, like I don't remember it being jokey, which was
It
so
wasn't
infuriating
even
to watch,
it,
you know.
even in the Straczynski run, he wasn't that way.
True, true, yeah.
That's
And
my
that's
favorite Thor run, by the way. That's also
oh,
well
that's a
said.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is kind of the that is kind of who he is. He is the stoic. The reason why the jokes worked in the first movie was
Mhm,
because he was a god put on earth and he's kind of a fish out of water. So he
mhm.
doesn't understand the earth things. I think they
Another.
yeah,
That
exactly. It
was
throws
great.
down
I
in the
love
mug.
that.
And that was like that was funny because we're watching this man, this god trying to live as a man, and it's a funny fish out of water.
Mhm.
It's well written and it's tongue in cheek, and then it just became like then Thor just became a goofball
They turned him into
comedian.
Deadpool, essentially.
Yeah, and it's like shut up. He just keeps talking
They
and goofing
wasted
around.
Planet Hulk. They wasted it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I want a good Planet Hulk slash World War Hulk movie, but we can't get that because besides the fact that they completely turned Hulk into a little baby.
I I feel very, very bad for so me personally, I've never really been a Hulk,
Mhm,
fanboy. I recognize how like if you talk to Sean, who's the owner of Comics Elite,
mhm.
one of Sean's favorite characters is the Hulk. I don't know why I just never found that resonance with him, but
Have you ever
um,
read Immortal Hulk
mm,
by Al Ewing?
I don't think I did. No.
Dude, read
I'll have to
that.
read it.
It turns the
Okay.
Hulk into a horror movie.
Ooh, that's
It's
cool. I could
so
see that.
good. Oh
That's pretty
gosh.
rad. Well, yeah, and I know that I think it's the Peter David run.
That
Was that
too.
the other one that's pretty good? So, but with that being said, I mean, I feel really bad for Hulk fans because um they have seen one good movie from him, which was the first Avengers film. And that was like, oh
Technically,
my God,
the Incredible Hulk was pretty good.
true, and I think a lot of people don't give it its fair shake. It's
Mhm.
credit, but I do think that was a good one as well. Comparatively to what we have now,
I hate
I think that
smart.
people could
Don't
say
even get me started on She-Hulk because what a waste of a great character.
it.
Because I recently got into She-Hulk comics and I'm like, I wish the show was like this.
Dude, right? Yeah. I went back and I rewatched my She-Hulk episode 1 review on my channel, and I was like, I still can't believe that this thing came out and that it would that like this is what we were given. It's still surreal, but yeah, that is a show that completely emasculates and completely just degrades the sacrifices that Bruce Banner did, and just completely craps on him,
Mhm.
which was all for the sake of female empowerment, which is like I think Chris Claremont, and I've seen him do this before, where he does a lot of that, like most of his characters have either led the X-Men or they've led
Mhm.
their own series, their own books. They've been the protagonist in most of these stories, and it never feels heavy-handed,
And they're right there. You need a
because
talented writer. That's why.
and that's yeah, to be able to have that power dynamic and power balance between the feminine and the masculine, you need someone who knows and understands that dynamic. And I felt like the She-Hulk writers didn't want a masculine aspect to the show. Like
Which is
that
sad
wasn't
because they brought in another masculine character, Daredevil.
yeah. Yeah. Which
Huh.
yeah, I
The
mean
suit looked good. The fight scenes were good. Some of his stuff was like really stupid. Where like he's doing the walk of shame, and I'm like,
yeah.
by the way, have you read the Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run?
The current one, right?
Yeah, the one that happened before I think before they did that event with Kingpin taking over. I think it was
Mm,
let me see. It was an earlier one, I think.
okay. I don't believe I did. I think the last one that I read was the Mark Wade run.
Mhm.
I forget,
It's
but
like I'm going through that, and Man Without Fear by Frank Miller, baby. That is
Oof.
amazing. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
But with Daredevil, it's like he took. It's like he also like with Daredevil. I think what it goes to is not only his but belief in a higher power, because I think that kind of plays into it. But he also like he also didn't let the accident define him. And this goes back to when he was a kid. He, as soon as he recognized, hey, I have these other skills, even though I'm blind. Hey, I can now find a way to help people through this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Daredevil, he also has a great run by Ann Nesenti.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think your boy Zach, him and his channel, he's been going through the entire Ann Nesenti run
Hmm.
and has been doing comic reviews on that. And it's beautiful, man. And it just proves that, like, you can have a masculine figure doing heroic deeds, and still have a more feminine uh individual writing Daredevil. So
Or
I
you can
think
have having a masculine character does not take away from the feminine characters. I've always said my
mhm,
favorite superheroes are Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is equally as capable as Superman and Batman
mhm,
combined. You can have it's because modern writers think that just because that you have like a masculine character, that means you take away from the feminine character, where the opposite is true. You can have both. It's just you need a balance of both. One does
mhm.
not take away from the other.
Well, it also kind of, it seems demeaning to feminine characters to say, well, in order to prop you up as a female, we're going to make the male character lesser than.
Mhm.
Like for
Captain
example,
Marvel.
well, Captain Marvel. The other one, so it actually came out this week
Mhm.
as of yeah, this today, Wednesday, new comic book day. Rogue and Gambit, issue number
Mhm.
one, and Rogue is constantly demeaning Gambit. Gambit is a drunk. He's idiotic. He's like put it simply, he's just pathetic. And
And
Rogue
he
is
hasn't been that way in the
constantly,
comics either.
no, he's been this really, you know, uh, I think he's always been a great fighter, a great lover. He's always cared for his team, and he's never been a drunk. I don't even remember him, like, Wolverine
I was about to
drinks a
say,
lot,
Wolverine
but
is a
like,
drinker.
yeah,
Wolverine, a little bit of Captain Marvel, but no, I've never
mm,
seen Gambit be like a heavy drinker. Gambler,
yeah,
yes, but a drinker, no.
sure, absolutely. And yeah, he's just always he's never been the brunt of the joke, right? Like, he's always been a part of the team. And so for this issue to just make him into this, like, emasculated, pathetic loser, was frustrating to see, because it's like that's not the character. And it's not, I think most people will see me talk about that, or see us talk about that, and they'll say, like, oh, well, you guys just don't like the politics, or you guys just don't like the wokeness or something. And it's like, no, we don't like that the character is being treated this way.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
disrespectful to the
here's the
character.
thing. Woke has kind of lost its definition, but the way I always define
Hmm.
it is the author applying a political message to a character that's incompatible with. I mean, it's fine if you want
Hmm.
to put some political hinting in the book. Chris Claremont's X-Men, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, hard traveling heroes are famous for this. But what
Yeah.
they did is that they didn't have Hal Jordan all of a sudden start acting like a liberal. He was still the conservative of the group. And the thing is that they treat it like their way of seeing things is the only correct way, and that's the difference. When they say comics have always been political, yes, but they never treated the audience like there's something wrong with them if you disagree with the message.
Yeah, that's a great, I think that is one of the biggest conversations right now, or maybe not the biggest, but one of the biggest conversations that's going on right now, is this, idea that comics have always been political. And like you said, I do believe that there has been a lot of subtext, a lot of allegory.
Mhm.
There are nuances, and I think we've lost the art of nuance, because there are plenty of stories within, throughout the centuries of writers putting in a political message or subtext through that. but it was never the defining factor, and it never preached or lectured its audience.
It's like
It
Civil
made
War.
Yeah, yeah, it made the reader think,
Mhm.
right? It never told them this is the right way to think, and if you don't think this way, you're the problem. And so that, and that's a whole different
Yeah.
story for another day. But
Mhm.
I'm sorry if I went off on a
No, it's fine.
tangent
That
there,
that
but
it
yeah.
it actually applies to this because a lot of what's considered politically correct is demonizing the masculine characters or holding up the feminine. Because
Mm,
one of the problems I have with Captain Marvel, the movie, is or like in the comics, is that they always demean the female, the male characters. That's in the case of like Nick Fury in the movie or Carol Danvers went in the comic. Here's the thing: Carol Danvers herself is a great character. That's the sad
mhm,
part. It's not like she's because my opinion is that there's no such thing as a terrible character. There's just terrible writers, and there you go. But
and yeah.
because Carol Danvers, I love when she's not being written as like a man-hating person, as in the case of the Brian Reed run.
Yeah. Yeah, the Miss Marvel character, I think, lends itself better to incorporate masculine and feminine ideals as opposed to um, Captain Marvel, which kind of tends to be more of like this third wave feminist type of writing.
Mhm.
Um, and so there's I think I enjoy the Miss Marvel character more so because I think there is more nuance to her,
Mhm.
and I think that she just probably interacts better with the different aspects of masculine and femininity within those books, as opposed to, yeah, snarky, condescending, patronizing. That's what I constantly see with a lot of female characters written right now, and it's like, gosh, aren't those toxic masculine qualities, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel
Aren't
like,
those the qualities that you claim we have?
yeah. So I've never understood this like push to have, women talking in this like snarky, arrogant, condescending, and patronizing way, because I've always thought that that's how a toxic villain male character would speak to a female character, or how maybe like a someone within a comic book that you want to hate, that's normally how they would talk. And yet that seems to be the heroic characteristics to females now. And it seems very counterintuitive. I
It
can't wrap
is.
my head around it, but
It's 100%. But what's one more a superhero that you think when you think of masculinity, this is the one dude you think of when it comes to comics?
hmm. Let's see. Let me look up at I'm looking up at some of my posters here to see if I can get some inspiration of some masculine heroes. Some really just like, hmm, I'm not sure. What do you think, brother? Do you have one that
I
because
would
I think, yeah, go
Prob-
ahead.
Probably Aquaman because it's this
Oh,
whole
okay.
thing of like finding your purpose, and that's basically his whole existence. And you have to be in the thing about true masculinity is that you also have to be a good mediator, and you have to be able to try to avoid conflict. And that's what Aquaman does. It's like he's constantly
Mhm.
trying to make sure that the ocean does not go to war with the surface world.
Yeah, that's a good point. He has to be a king to his people, and he has to be, like you said, like a good mediator. Like,
Plus, he
in
shows
order
restraint whenever anyone brings up, "Don't you talk to fish?"
oh god, that argument is so played out at this point. But yeah, no, I mean, like, that's why I love, was it the Jeff Johns run or the Dan
Yes,
Abnett run where he like
either of
has
those
like,
two.
yeah, like both are so good. But he has that moment where he has like sharks and like whales and gigantic like sea monsters like emerging from the ocean, and he's like, yeah, you want to talk to me about
Even the
dolphins again?
movie, I think it captured that perfectly. The way
Mhm.
he is this badass dude, but is constantly trying to like, I guess the word is like to figure out his place in the world.
Yeah. And I think a lot of men have to,
Mhm.
deal with that, is that they are trying to find their purpose in the world. Like, how can they contribute to society? What is their place as and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Or do they tend to be more of a a protector, a provider. What does that look like for them? What is their purpose, their role in society? How can they change? How can they make their mark on individuals or on a community? And so yeah, for Arthur Curry, I mean, like that is his
Mhm.
purpose. How can I be the king to my people and also be the hero to the surface world?
Yeah.
That is a huge responsibility on both ends.
Plus, there are times when being a hero, being on the Justice League, conflicts with being a king. Like if he has to
Mhm.
constantly choose who's right. It's like in the fact that there was a storyline they did in the New 52 when Atlantis invades, and he's like in the middle of, do I side with the Justice League against my own people, or do I side with the Atlanteans who kind of hate me against my friends of 5 years? So you have
Mhm.
that internal conflict, and he constantly has to wrestle with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. As I was thinking about another masculine
Yeah.
character, I was thinking about this. I mean, as a joke, I was gonna say like, yeah, Conan. Because Conan the
Well, yeah,
Barbarian is
puts me
like,
man in that case.
yeah, it's like Thor, but on triple, masculine
Or it's like
steroids. It's like,
any space marine.
yeah, exactly. Any type of, hero from the Warhammer 40K
It's
universe, like
basically just masculine dudes wall to wall. It's like, oh,
it's just,
geez.
a lot of yeah, your space marines, ultramarines, black templars, like tend
They
to
shall
be
know no
these just like,
fear.
yeah, these ultimate envisionments of like just pure raw masculinity at its finest.
Mhm,
So yeah, I love those aspects of the Warhammer 40K universe.
mhm.
But yeah, also the almost over the top nature of Conan the Barbarian, where he is just, all he does is just kill and slaughter and then take the women and like goes on to the next town. He's just,
They did a book
yeah.
that was him crossing over with Wonder Woman, and it was
Oh,
he's constantly coming on to Wonder Woman. It's drawn by Aaron Lepresti, so there you go.
oh, there you go.
And
Okay, yeah.
it's written by Gail Simone. And what's interesting about this book,
Oh wow.
both of them were treated with respect. In other words, Conan
Mhm.
is not treated like an idiot,
Yeah.
and Wonder Woman is treated respectfully. So I'm like, see, it is possible. You just need a competent writer. That's the problem. A lot of people writing these characters don't know how to write these characters.
Yeah, or they know how to write, but maybe they haven't even done the legwork
Mhm,
to understand the character or like go back and read previous issues. Like we've seen, there was a director, I think it was the director or writer of Loki,
mhm.
and she was saying, she's like, yeah, I've never read a comic book in my life. And you're asking an
The
individual.
MCU actually tells people we consider it a red flag if someone shows up and they're a Marvel fan. I'm like, what the hell, dude?
Exactly. Like that should be minimal entry level, like on your resume of like when you're handing that into like, Disney Marvel, that should be the minimal level of expertise that you have, is reading comic books and knowing the characters. And a
Mhm.
lot of writers just don't do that legwork. They don't put in the work to understand why this character is masculine and why that can still be a healthy thing, why it doesn't have to be toxic, or why they have to demean male figures or whatnot. So and we saw that in Loki. We saw Loki just being kicked in the balls over and over and over again. So
By Sif.
metaphorically, and yeah, but
Li- li- Literally, yeah, by Sif.
yeah.
It's like it's a constant loop. So I'm like, okay. Or like in Moon Knight, where the show is basically an intro for the female superhero character
Hmm.
instead of him, and he barely was in the suit. But uh, that show
So
had issues.
yeah, yeah. So,
But
overall, though, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of writers either don't know how to write the character or just haven't even taken the initiative to like do the work to understand, to read, to research, and that's really like to understand that there is a legacy before you, and try and work that into the character. If a writer doesn't do that, that's a really poor move and a red flag for sure.
because a lot of them just don't care. But on that
Yeah.
note, on that really, we'll wrap up. So Max, thanks for coming back, brother. Where can everyone find you, and what do you have going on the channel?
Yeah, you guys can find me MVP Maxfield Von Priestley. It's my full name, and you guys can find me there. I will be doing a live stream on. Well, I always do a live stream on Friday nights with the Comics Elite guys, Drew and Kyle. Sometimes it's on my channel, sometimes it's on their channel. But yeah, you can find me over at MVP Maxfield Von Priestley. Comic books, Warhammer, and anything pop culture and entertainment. I cover it, and it's a lot of fun to do this kind of stuff. But yeah, as always, thank you for having me on, Jared. I appreciate
Anytime,
it, man.
dude. We have to start doing this more often again.
Yes, and thank you for being so patient with me and trying to figure out and scheduling a good time that works. And so I appreciate you doing that. But glad to be back as always, and we'll have to do this again soon.
On that note, like, comment, subscribe, drop below with superheroes you think are the epitome of masculinity. And be civil. I don't want to have to like ban people from the chat for calling people toxic. That will happen. Before we go, I did a video talking about how the marriage to Lois Lane is like redundant and it kind of undermines Superman's storytelling because he's going to save her. So it's just there's no stakes. I got torn apart, dude.
Really?
People tell me to go F myself because here's the problem. A lot of Superman fans are purists, meaning it has to be this way because it's been that way for so long. And it's like they were arguing to me why I should know that like Superman is kinky. Did you see that? So Philip Kenny Johnson put like a scene where John Kent opens like a closet door and he sees like the World suit and Lois Lane like closes it up really fast. And I'm like, what does this contribute to the character of Superman besides in some ways undermining the character of Superman?
I mean, I did see that panel. I read that book and it felt so out of place. And it just, it didn't seem like, it felt like he was doing it for a joke, but at the expense of the uniform to which Superman was enslaved in and also like tortured in. And like, like the respect for that uniform seemed to have like lost all meaning to undermine him for a joke. And like I said, that's been happening with Thor as of recently with the MCU, undermining a character in order to put a joke in. So but yeah, shoot, I'm sorry that you've gotten torched for that. I think we've all had our share of of torching on some of our videos.
That's how you know you've made it when people are coming at you in the comments.
That's true. That's very true.
But on that positive note, stay woke, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.